When the ground crew reached him, they couldn't believe anyone had survived. They counted the damage. Over 200 bullet and cannon holes. Every control surface was damaged. The canopy was shattered. The tail was barely attached. Hydraulics completely destroyed. One propeller blade perforated. Any other single-engine fighter would have disintegrated. Johnson flew it home. He was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross. But more importantly, his survival became legendary proof of what the P-47 could endure. Johnson would go on to become one of America's top aces in Europe, with 27 confirmed victories, every single one while flying a Thunderbolt. He flew 91 combat missions and survived the war. Years later, he was asked what he thought of the P-47. His answer was simple. It brought me home when nothing else would have. Johnson's story wasn't unique. It was almost routine. Consider Captain Michael Gladych, a Polish pilot flying with the 56th Fighter Group. On one mission over Germany, his P-47 was hit by flak. The canopy was blown completely off, just gone. This happened at 25,000 feet. At that altitude, the temperature is 40 below zero. The air is so thin you can't breathe without oxygen. The wind blast from flying at 300 miles per hour should have knocked him unconscious instantly. Gladych not only stayed conscious, he fought off attacking German fighters, shot one down, then flew his damaged P-47 all the way back across the English Channel to safety. When he landed, ground crews found him nearly frozen solid in the cockpit, but alive. Or Lieutenant Colonel Francis Gabby Gabreski, who would become the top American ace in Europe with 28 aerial victories. In December 1943, Gabreski was hit by a Bf-109 during a dogfight. A 20mm cannon shell struck his engine, destroying the turbocharger. The engine stopped dead at high altitude. Gabreski prepared to bail out. But then something remarkable happened. As the aircraft descended and air pressure increased, the engine restarted on its own. The damaged turbocharger wasn't needed at lower altitude. Gabreski flew the crippled aircraft back to England and made an emergency landing. The stories multiplied. P-47s returning with wing sections shot off, with tail surfaces mostly destroyed, with engines that should have seized but kept running. Time after time, the Thunderbolt proved it could absorb punishment that would down anything else. So what made the P-47 so survivable? First, that massive radial engine. 18 cylinders arranged in 2 rows around a circular crankcase. Air-cooled, which meant no vulnerable coolant lines. You could literally blow holes in several cylinders, and the remaining ones would keep producing power. German pilots learned the hard way that shooting at a P-47 head-on was pointless. The engine was too big, too tough. It acted as a shield protecting everything behind it. Second, redundancy in critical systems. Multiple fuel tanks, self-sealing to prevent fires. Robust hydraulic lines with backup systems. Electrical systems that could take damage and keep functioning. Third, structural strength. The entire airframe was over-engineered. Republic built the P-47 to handle stresses far beyond normal operating limits. This meant it could absorb battle damage and structural failures that would tear other aircraft apart. Fourth, those air ducts we talked about earlier. Running through the belly of the aircraft, they absorbed impact forces during crash landings and even provided some protection against ground fire. The result was an aircraft with an almost supernatural ability to keep flying. Pilots developed absolute confidence in the Thunderbolt. They knew if they got hit, they'd probably make it home. That confidence translated to aggressive flying. P-47 pilots would press attacks when other fighters would break off. They'd fly through flak that other pilots avoided, because they trusted their aircraft to survive. Let's talk about the men who made the P-47 legend. Francis Stanley Gabreski, Gabby to everyone who knew him, almost didn't make it through flight school. Born in 1919 to Polish immigrant parents in Oil City, Pennsylvania, he enrolled in flight training in 1940, and he struggled. His instructor at civilian flight school said he didn't have the touch to be a pilot. During Army Air Corps primary training, Gabreski barely survived an elimination flight, essentially a last chance to prove he could fly. He was tense at the controls, overcorrecting, fighting the aircraft. A sympathetic instructor gave him another chance with different teaching methods. Gabreski finally clicked. He graduated, was commissioned as a second lieutenant in March 1941, and was assigned to Wheeler Field, Hawaii. December 7, 1941. Pearl Harbor. Gabreski was there. He scrambled his fighter to intercept the Japanese attack, but arrived after the attacking aircraft had withdrawn. That near miss haunted him. He wanted another chance at combat. His chance came in 1943. With his Polish heritage, his father had immigrated from Poland in 1909, Gabreski volunteered to fly with Polish squadrons in the RAF. He was accepted and assigned to No. 315 Squadron, flying Spitfire Mark Visses. He flew 20 missions with the Poles, engaging in combat once. The experience was invaluable. The Polish pilots were veterans, survivors of the Battle of Britain. They taught him tactics, patience, how to keep calm in combat. In February 1943, Gabreski was transferred to the 8th Air Force's 56th Fighter Group, now flying the P-47 Thunderbolt, assigned to the 61st Fighter Squadron under Colonel Hub Zemke's command. His reception was cold. The other pilots had trained together stateside. They'd shipped over together. They'd lost friends learning to fly the new P-47. Gabreski was an outsider with no P-47 experience. Making matters worse, he was promoted over 2 more senior pilots to become flight leader. Resentment ran deep. Then on August 24, 1943, Gabreski scored his first kill, a Focke-Wulf 190 near Dreux, France. The tension began to ease. November 26, 1943. The day Gabreski became an ace. The 56th Fighter Group was assigned to cover B-17 bombers withdrawing from a raid on Bremen, Germany. They arrived to find the bombers under heavy attack near Oldenburg. Gabreski led his flight into the fray. Messerschmitt Bf-100s were everywhere. These twin-engine heavy fighters packed serious firepower but were relatively slow. Gabreski spotted one, closed to 700 yards, and fired. The 850 calibers converged on target. The Bf-110 burst into flames. Gabreski had to dive hard to avoid colliding with the disintegrating aircraft. Minutes later, he spotted another Bf-110. He accelerated, closed rapidly, fired from point-blank range, hit it at the wing root. The German fighter spiraled to the ground in a massive fireball. 2 kills in one mission. Gabreski was now an ace. He would go on to score 28 aerial victories, making him the top American ace in Europe. But his story almost ended in tragedy. On July 20th, 1944, Gabreski was on a strafing run against a German airfield. Low-level attack, extremely dangerous. His propeller clipped the runway. Just barely, enough to bend the tips. The damage caused violent vibration. Gabreski was forced to crash land in a nearby field. He ran into the woods and evaded capture for 5 days before being turned over to German forces by a local farmer. The Germans knew exactly who they'd captured. Gabreski's kill record made him famous, even among the Luftwaffe. He was sent to Stalag Luft I and remained a prisoner of war until Germany surrendered in May 1945. After the war, Gabreski stayed in the Air Force. When the Korean War started, he volunteered for combat again. Flying F-86 Sabres, he shot down 6 more aircraft, becoming one of only 7 American pilots to achieve ace status in 2 wars. 28 kills in World War II, 6.5 in Korea, for a career total of 34.5 aerial victories. All accomplished with skill, courage, and the kind of determination that almost got him washed out of flight school. Gabreski died in 2002 at age 83. He was buried with full military honors at Calverton National Cemetery in New York.